All right, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the Mr. Islam Answers Back show live. Got a good topic for you today. We always try to bring some good topics. In this topic, we are addressing the situation that many of you have witnessed. We've known for a long time, and we've talked about this, the bigotry and the racism that is associated many times with attacks against Islam, whether it be theological, political. We see the bigotry and racism that is many times associated with those who are attacking Islam. And in this case, we are addressing another example of that when it comes to certain types of Christian, so-called Christian outreach to Muslims. And as you see on the screen, you see an example of some of the well-known so-called outreach to Muslims, but how they thought that reaching out to Muslims by mocking Muslims or mocking, Middle Eastern people would somehow draw people to Christianity is amazing. Perhaps that's not even their intent, right? Like I tried to watch a little bit of an example when they were being called out for what they were doing. I think by James White, they tried to explain, or some video I saw where they were attempting to explain why they took such an approach. But the excuse was lame. It was just a way to try to cover up and justify their blatant bigotry. The excuse was unacceptable. That so it didn't matter. But as you can see, these two idiots. That's right, and I'm not gonna play nice. These two idiots on the screen, as you're looking at right now, David Wood and Vocab Malone, dressing up, putting on Middle Eastern styled clothing, mockingly acting and talking like as if they're Arabs. Again, like I said, how they even and they made like a number of videos when they did that Islamicized series. How they thought, how even during the process of making that, nobody was like, man, maybe this isn't a good idea. Like nothing came into their minds and say, you know what, they didn't feel foolish, stupid. No, I guess not. And this is that type of immature bigotry that I've even witnessed growing up, and many of us have seen, where you have a lot of white, racist, bigoted teenagers in they since they're not in government yet, since they're not in official positions, then they do this kind. They express their bigotry and their racism in this form by mocking black people, mocking Hispanic, Latino people, mocking Arabs or whatever. So this is what David Wood and Vocab and the other dude that they, who did carry this out. This is that type of immature racism that they expressed here. Here they are, grown men. Here they are, grown men, putting on such a display of offensive mockery. And again, I don't know the guy's name. The other guy, the third person that they're with, don't really care either. It doesn't really matter. Where's the dude at? Yeah, I have the picture. These are just some examples of white bigots making fun of black people in the past by putting on what they call blackface. This guy, the guy right here, you see here in the picture with Vocab, should be ashamed of himself as a black person, as a black man, regardless of what religion he decides to choose. But to see a black man participate in this foolishness, he should know better. But as I've said in my previous videos about him, that I growing up, I've seen people like that too. When I was growing up, I went to a school that was mixed black, white, Latino, and you would have some every once in a while a token black guy who hangs out with, predominantly with a white crowd. Nothing wrong with that, but what I'm saying is that they would hang out with them, and they, instead of challenging the racism of their friends, they would participate with it. They would go along with mocking and making fun of other black people, even though they were black themselves. And of course, they were looked upon as sellouts. Right? They were looked upon as sellouts and fools and coons. Because they were stupidly the brunt of the joke, as they say. Right? But I guess to be accepted, they would, go along and with their white friends mocking and making fun of other black people, even though they were black themselves. And that's how I view this idiot here. I view him the same way. That he's hanging out with David and Vocab, and he's the token black friend, and he's going along with their mockery of other people of color. Shameful, bro. Shameful. It's sad and it's shameful that this dude would participate. He should know better. Out of all of them, he should know better. But as I said, you got people like that. You got the sellouts. You got the coons who will, participate in white bigotry for whatever reason. Most of the time, to be accepted. Right? To be accepted in the crowd. He'll go along with it, even though he should know better. Even though he should be challenging them. He should have challenged Vocab and David Wood to say, hey, you know what? I don't think this is a good idea. But no, the coons are like that. They'll go along. They'll go along to get along. Yeah, they'll go along to get along. Wa alaikum salam, Akib. Akib and Khatib, welcome. Salam alaikum. You know what I mean? So it's sad. It's sad. But as I said, why they chose to dress up like this and make mockery, as I said, this stems from bigotry and racism. It's a long history of white bigots, white racists, making fun and mocking people of color. And that's how I view what David and Vocab and the other idiot did. Even though, like I said, again, he's black, but he's participating in their mockery of the people of color. He's the token Negro, the coon, Uncle Tom sellout style. That's what he is, the Sambo, who's participating with the white bigots to make fun of a people of color, where they would have easily done the same thing to him. Right? So it's a long history, it's a long history of this, as you see here. It's a long history. These are, I'm going to be showing you some pictures. This is an old picture, probably from the early 1900s, of what they used to call the minstrel show, where you had a white man, he would put on paint or makeup on his face to look like a black person, a stereo, like a mocking image of a black person. And then they would act stupid and do silly things to make mockery of black people, just like Vocab and David and the other dude did to Muslims in their silly, immature Islamicize Me series. Right? It's the same thing. So in this case, they're dressing up like Arabs or Middle Easterners, and they're talking with the silly accent, doing stupid things, and basically making a mockery. How they thought that would bring Muslims to Christ, I don't know. If that, maybe that wasn't even their intention. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they don't care if Muslims come. Maybe they just want to make mockery and make fun of it, and they really don't care if Muslims want to come to Islam or not. Because I don't see how they would think that that's going to make Muslims say, oh wow, Islam is not a good religion. Let me join you. I've said this before. Even if hypothetically that I had left Islam, I wouldn't want to be friends with David or Vocab or the other dude. I wouldn't want to be their friends. I wouldn't say, you know what, now I want to go to your church. Hell no. I wouldn't want to be their friends if I left Islam. I wouldn't want to go to Vocab's church or David's church or the token Coon's church. I wouldn't want to be friends with them after doing stuff like that. That wouldn't make me say, wow, let me be your friend. Let me go to your church. Your church must be wonderful. No, I would say your church must be a bunch of racist devils. That's what your church must be. Wouldn't want to join any of their churches if that's how you carry on. If that's how you think you want to invite people to Christ or Christianity, right? I would definitely not want to be their friends. As you can see, they took that play, how they dressed, right out of the book of white bigotry and racism. Dressing up as a people of color to make fun of them and mock them, as you see here. All right, this guy they called this an Al Jolson, was said to be one of the first people to put on what they call blackface, to make mockery of black people. Again, David and Vocab and the other fool, they're no different. They put on Arab face or brown face to make fun of Muslims. Particularly, obviously, they're mocking Middle Eastern looking Muslims. Right? They're mocking Middle Eastern Muslims' dress and mocking them. Again, if you ever watch the series, which I don't recommend, not because they have any truth in it, not because there's some truth that they have, no, because of the offensiveness of it. Because of the offensiveness of it. But these idiots, it's an alarm. Remember, Justin Trudeau got in trouble when they found out that he put on what they call brown face, where he dressed up at a party, as you see here. Said he claims he was dressing as Aladdin, but why he had to paint his face though, right? When I was a kid and I dressed up as Superman, I didn't paint my face white. I didn't paint my face white when I wanted to be Superman. I just put on the Superman suit, and my imagination, I was Superman. My parents didn't think, well, let me paint you white. Let me paint your face and your hands white so you could look like Superman. No, I just put the suit on, and my imagination, I was Superman. When I dressed up like Batman as a kid, same thing. You put on the Batman mask, and you know Batman's face, part of his face is exposed, right? From his mouth down. I didn't paint that part white, right? I didn't say, well, I'm Batman. Let me paint the part that's exposed from his mask. Let me paint it white. No, you just use your imagination and that I'm Batman. Put on the suit, put on the mask, and you're Batman. You didn't say, well, I need to paint the part that's exposed. Let me paint it white or peach so I can look like I'm a Caucasian man. No, you just use your imagination. Why do white bigots feel, why do white people feel that when they got to be a black character, you got to paint yourself? No, just put on the suit. You want to be the Black Panther? Just put on the suit and imagine you're the Black Panther. You don't got to paint yourself black underneath the face mask to be the Black Panther. People will see that you're pretending to be the Black Panther. The same way when black kids dressed up like Superman or Batman or whoever that was a white superhero, you put it on and you pretended that you just pretended. Your imagination pretended that you were whoever you pretended to be. If a black kid wants to be Captain America, put on the Captain America suit. You don't got to paint your hands white. And black kids don't do that. I've seen black kids in this very day who want to be the black Captain America or whatever. I've never seen a black parent, even to this very day, have to paint their child's face white to look like Captain America. When I was a kid, I was also Spider-Man. Right? I didn't say, oh, well, I got to look like Peter Parker underneath. Let me paint myself white so when I pull the mask off, I'll look like I'm Peter Parker. No. But for some reason, white bigots feel that they got to paint their faces to look like us, to mock us. Right? Here's another picture, mocking. Again, this dressing up is a mocking thing. That's why I'm calling out Vocab and David and again the other. I don't even know. He's not important. That's why I can't even remember the dude's names. None of them are really important. But I just happen to know David and Vocab. So I'm saying about the other dude I don't even know. But they're not in. It's not really that important that we know his name anyway, or any of their names. But like I said, I already know them, so I'm speaking out what I know from their names. But as you can see here, when these people put on blackface, it's to mock us. It's to make a joke out of it. And David and Vocab and the other guy, no different. They were no different in that. No different. Some people said that's supposed to be Bill Clinton at a party. It does look like him. If that's him, it does look like him when he was younger. But that's supposed to be Bill Clinton at a party. I don't know who the lady's with in the blackface. But as you can see, it's always this caricature, mocking image when they dress up like that. Right? Here are the idiots dressing up like Arabs, Middle Easterners, trying to look like an Arab, trying to look like Muslims. This is real actually too. They actually went out. This was when they were messing with the Hebrew Israelite guys. They went out to one of those Hebrew Israelite, the guys that speak on the street. You ever seen them? They speak on the street. They went out there and they dressed like this and they went out there mocking mocking Muslims and trying to mock the Hebrew Israelites. It's talking about Muhammad is a white man. Had a sign said Muhammad is a white man, a white sister. Some nonsense, man. But you know what's funny though? Well, not funny in an amusing way. But if they had done this to any other group, they would have been roundly castigated and condemned. If vocab and these dudes went out dressing like Jews to attack Judaism, it would not stand. Right? If they dressed up like Jews and went out and mocking Jews and attacking the Jewish religion, vocab, David, and the other guy, it would not stand. We know that. We know that they would be castigated and roundly condemned if they had done such a thing. In fact, if they dressed like black people, if they went out dressing like stereotypical black people with a hat on and sneakers and a big gold chain, acting like, dressing like a stereotype of a black rapper or something, it would be unacceptable. It would be condemned, wouldn't it? Right? We know these things. You can't do these things. But here they are. This is what I'm showing you is that this is in the same line as that. How they're dressed here it's the same thing as if they dressed like Jews and mocked them. It would be the same thing if they dressed like a stereotype of a black person. It would be the same thing. It's the same thing. It comes in the same line of thinking, and it should be roundly condemned. Because even then, I know some people spoke, and I know James White condemned them for what. But to me, I didn't see it didn't seem like it was really a big deal to most people. From what I saw, it didn't seem like they really got, any big backlash for doing this. From the Christian community, I didn't see like it didn't seem like Christians were, like it was a. If you watch that stupid ass video that they made, people, the haters loved it. A bunch of haters and white bigots, they love that. The videos got a lot of views. I didn't see a big backlash from the so-called good, loving Christians. Right? I didn't see a big backlash. I didn't see a big backlash on social media either. Did YouTube take the videos down? I don't think so, right? Did YouTube take the videos down? Did YouTube remove the videos or anything like that? I don't think that happened. Does anybody know? Yeah, I know that Big Berber, that in some of these other countries, matter of fact, I had some pictures of that where in some of these countries like in Spain and all that, they have this celebration that they put on blackface. They dressing like the Moors, they say. They're supposed to be dressing like the Moors. They put on blackface and fez and all this stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. It's insulting. Now it's not just in Holland. They do it in a lot of these European countries. Spain, Italy, they have this festival every, I don't know why, what are they celebrating? And they dress up, they're supposed to be dressing like the Moors. This is, by the way, a side note, this is a proof that the Moors were black people. This is a proof that the Moors, when they were in Europe, they were clearly black. This commemoration that these people do, or whatever they're mocking them, this shows you that the Moors were black. Because sometimes you see some people try to, downplay the fact that the Moors were blacks. The Moors were Muslim blacks, and of course the Moors were some of the most, they were the ones who brought the knowledge and advances into Europe. The Muslim Moors were the ones who did that. The Moors were very advanced when they were throughout Europe. And some people try to downplay that, but this is the proof that the Europeans remember them as being black. The fact that they put on these black, dark black makeup on their faces as they have these parades and stuff like that is a proof that the Europeans are reminding and telling you that the Moors were definitely black. There's no doubt about it. The Moors were black. Exactly, brother Muslim by choice. Exactly. I remember one time there was a thing that showed where one of the videos he did a long time ago where it was actually being used on a white supremacist site. I think it was Stormfront, as a matter of fact. Stormfront, the Ku Klux Klan website, they loved it. They loved it. And it's like that saying goes. David Wood may say that he's not a racist, but the white racists think that he's a racist. The white racists, they think you're one of them. Why is that? Why do they think that you're one of them? Why do they use your material? Because obviously you feed the beast. You feed the beast. You're expressing the same ideas that the beast believes in. So they say, oh, look, they're using your material. They're using your material. Right? They're using your material. Inshallah, Muslim by choice. Inshallah, I'll talk about the ADOS when I'm finished. After we deal with the subject. You know. So this is what we're seeing. So like I said, this is really all in just making fun and mockery. When they did this David and Vocab are doing the same thing you see in these pictures. Dressing up as black people or dressing up as Arabs or whatever and making fun of them. And that's what they did in that Islamicized video. They mocked Muslims. They mocked Arabs in particular with the accent. They mocked the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Right? They made a mockery. And as I said, that mockery that they made is not about, you know, religious challenge or religious or theological challenge to Islam. It was an expression of the bigotry that David, Vocab, and the other coon token Negro friend that they have for Muslims and Islam. And that's really sad. What a way to try to, you know, get people to Christianity. I wonder how successful their little Islamicized series was in bringing anybody away from Islam. Right? I wonder how successful it was. But as I said, I don't recall seeing a big backlash. Right? I don't recall seeing a big backlash on social media to them. But as you can see here in this picture, you see Vocab. He has like it looks like a bomb device, the button for the bomb. I mean, really, you see what I'm saying? I mean, really, Vocab. What the hell made you think that was cool though? What the hell made you think that mocking Muslims like this or mocking Middle Easterners like this was cool and Christian-like? That's why I already told you, bro, to people in the audience that, you know, there's no friendly terms between me and any of these people anymore. You know, no, there's no friendly terms. There's no shaking hands and giving a hug or no more of that with these guys. These guys have shown themselves to be straight up bigots. Straight up bigots. This right here, straight up bigotry. So I can't, if I see you at a debate or whatever, I can't go up to you and shake your hand and how you it won't be any of that. Won't be any of that with blatant bigots like this. Won't be any of that. Definitely not. Yeah, Big Berber. Yeah, a lot of people did like that, and that's how you got to treat these bigots. Can't deal with them with soft gloves. You got to be firm. You got to be firm, especially when you're dealing with people like that. So yeah, the way Muhammad Hijab handled that debate, very well. When you're dealing with somebody like these people, straight up blatant bigots, who are known for these type of antics and mockery and such, yeah, they don't deserve that kind of professional respect, because what they did is unprofessional. Grown men, though, I repeat myself, grown men out here trying to wow, be some type of religious examples of the so-called love of Christ and love of Christianity, but out here dressing up, making offensive and racist and bigoted mockery of a people. Yeah, the brother C.R. Edwards, if you saw my interview that I did with him about a month or two back, how he said, he didn't deal with that. And alhamdulillah, the brother came back to Islam, and, he he talked about this. you know. So I just wanted to finally address it because it's been on my mind for a while, and I've been wanting to address it, and finally I was able to, get around to doing it, to addressing it. But again, I would like to hear from some Christians if you approve of this kind of stuff. Because like I said, I didn't really see a big backlash. Most of the Christians that I saw, the comments, they loved it. But as Brother Muslim by Choice said, yeah, a lot of those people are white racists, even with their Christianity. Because again, we talked about this in previous shows too. How in many times Christianity and white supremacy, white racism, white bigotry, it goes hand in hand. The same way it goes hand in hand with their patriotism. It goes hand in hand. Right? The overall, as I said, the overall belief is the religion of white supremacy. And under that are subsets. The Christianity is part of the religion of white supremacy. Their patriotism is part of the religion of white supremacy. No matter what country, it could be the patriotism in America, the patriotism in Canada, patriotism in Australia, patriotism in the UK. It's all connected. It all stems from the root, which is white supremacy, white racism. And this, what we see from David and Vocab and the other fool. And again, just because he's black doesn't mean he can't go along with the program of white racism and white bigotry. Like I said, there have been historically many sellouts. Somebody posted Malcolm X earlier. Yes, Malcolm X talked about it. So just because don't come to me and say, oh well, it doesn't matter because he's black. There are sellouts. There's coons and such that have worked for the furtherment of white supremacy, even though they weren't white themselves, but because they wanted that acceptance, because they wanted to be with the crowd, because they wanted to be in the crowd, they'd go along with it. So please don't hit me up later talking about, well, the guy's black, so what? Indeed, Muslim by choice, indeed. Well, Akib, it's because they made Jesus white. To them, Jesus is not a Palestinian Jew. You see how they paint him? You see how they depict him? To them, they turned him into a white. That's why they made it acceptable. Because they turned him into one of them. Right? They turned him into one of them. Because obviously you're right. They wouldn't be able to stand there and worship a man who looks like he's from Palestine, from the Middle East. So to make him acceptable, they turned him into one of them. They made him look like them. Long hair, blue eyes, blonde hair, white looking. They made him look like they made him look like them, which was then acceptable for them to worship. The sad part though is how after they changed him into one of them, they then took him around the world, the image of him, the false image of him around the world, and got the rest of the world to worship him looking like them. That was the crazy part about it. How they was able to teach the other world to worship the false image of Jesus that looks like them as well. But again, as I said, I just wanted to speak about this because it's been on my mind for a while. I've been talking about other subjects, but I wanted to finally get around to addressing this subject of Christian missionary bigotry, their offensive mockery for Christ. And how, like I said, there wasn't really a big backlash. I didn't see a big backlash against them for what they did. The only person that I really know that spoke out was David Wood, right? I mean, James White. As far as I saw, if anybody knows anybody else, please let me know. But as far as I saw, James White was the only person who really said something about them. Did any of the other, speak out? Did any of the other, known, well-known Christian apologists condemn them or speak out against it? Because I know they're friends with a few of the others. Did any of the others say anything? What's the other guy's name? I forgot his name. Forgot their names. But some of those other debaters, did any of them condemn it, say anything about it, or did they remain silent? Did they remain silent? From what I see, it appears that they remain silent. Yeah, he was the only one I know, right? And David Wood, isn't he married to the sister of one of those apologists. What's that guy's name? I forgot. What's that guy's name, man? I forgot his name. There's two of them. What is it? William something, right? Isn't it William something? And Craig something. I forgot the guys. I forgot their names. But yeah, as far as I know, James Wright was the only one. The rest of them remained silent. Bro, right? Isn't David Wood married to the sister of one of them? So yeah, and yeah, I don't know. It's just like, but as I said, I don't know how they expected that this would be successful. You know what I mean? I don't know how they expected that this would be successful in destroying Muslims' faith and making people, making Muslims want to leave Islam and come to and join them. As I said again, I repeat that if hypothetically I had left, I wouldn't want to join them. I wouldn't say, cool, let me now become friends with David and vocab and the coon Negro friend, or let me now join your church or whatever. No, I would stay far away from these guys. Is it Apology? I don't know. What's that dude's name? I can't remember his name, man. He debated Shabir Ali. Let me see. What's his name? Let me see. Shoot. Isn't it William something? William. Boy. Let's see. What's his name, man? Oh, yeah. Is it William Lane Craig? Yeah, William Lane Craig. Exactly. Yeah. So, so William Lane Craig. He didn't say anything about it. Yeah, William Lane Craig. What's the other guy's name? Is William Lane Craig. And then the other guy, what's his name? Man. There's William Lane Craig. I don't know if he said anything about it. And then the other guy. Oh man, what's the other guy's name? Let me see. Shabir Ali. Let's see. Mike Lacona. That's his name. Mike Lacona. Yeah, Mike Lacona. What about Mike Lacona? Did Mike Lacona say anything? Isn't David Wood married to his sister or something? Yeah, Mike Lacona, right? Is David Wood married to Mike Lacona's sister? No, maybe I'm mistaken about that. I thought that was Mike Lacona's sister. But yeah, none of these people, did any of them say anything? William Lane Craig, did he say anything about it? Mike Lacona, did he say anything? Because I know they have a connection to Mike Lacona for sure, right? I know they have some type of connection to Mike Lacona. David does. But yeah, James Wright was like the only one that I saw that condemned him. He's the only one that I saw that had anything to say about it. But I say that's fine, because good. It's like we get to know where they stand. You know what I mean? It's all good because we get to know where they stand. So whether they condemned it, if they didn't condemn it, then fine, good. We know we can take that to know where you stand. All right. Camel will, wa alaikum salam. So it is what it is. So it's fine, no problem. You know what I mean? You don't condemn it, then good. We know where you stand. Let me go back to what you were asking me, brother, about the ADOS movement. What do I think about it? To me, I think the ADOS movement is fine. You know what I mean? They have a right intention, I would say. I know some people have an issue about some of the gripes that they're taking up with some of the immigrants. Some of it is legitimate, I would say. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to have a wide paint all immigrants with a wide brush, but I definitely know what they're saying and understand from with some of the gripes that they have with some. As a matter of fact, I talked about that on my last show too, about how particularly with Muslim immigrants, that we can't be silent. But not we. I'm not an immigrant, but I mean that the Muslim immigrants cannot be silent, especially when you're here in the West, silent on issues of racism and police brutality and things like that. Right? I talked about that in the last show that I did. That you can't be, and so that's the gripe that they have, is that a lot of times a lot of immigrants, whether they're from the Middle East or from Asia or from Latin America or whatever, all people of color, but when they come to America, for some reason they seem to try to want to align themselves with the white power structure, the white racist power structure, and turn a blind eye to the things that are happening, the racism that we see, the police brutality, etc. Sometimes they will even parrot the talking points of the right wing. Matter of fact, I've been seeing some issues with that going on lately, where there are some brothers and sisters from Middle Eastern countries, or from India, Pakistan, or whatever, or from the Middle East or whatever, and they are parroting some of the right-wing talking points against the issues that we're having here in America, claiming that racism is not real. When we see police brutality happening, making excuses for the blatant police brutality, stuff like that. So, this is what's happening, and so this is why some Black Americans haven't taken issue. This is what the ADOS is talking about. You know what I mean? This is what ADOS is talking about. They're like, you come here, you're not white either, but you're trying to align yourselves with the white bigots in speaking against Black Americans and against bigotry and racism and stuff, and acting like it's either it doesn't exist, it's no big deal, it's all your fault, that kind of stuff like that. It's like, trying to align yourselves with these people. And again, I talked about that the last show, of how we got a lot of immigrant Muslims who are trying to be with the Republican Party. And I'm like, how? Again, I say be independent, but how are you aligning yourself with these people particularly? Because they're the ones who are always talking about the Sharia, the creeping Sharia law, and the Muslims are trying to take over. They're the ones always for wars and invading and bombing Middle Eastern countries. But you're aligning yourselves with them? Unless you're aligning yourselves with them so you can change that narrative, I don't know. But I haven't seen that. I haven't seen them aligning themselves and then trying to change the narrative. But you joining the people who are always talking about it's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy of the Muslim Brotherhood to take over the country. They're infiltrating, creeping Sharia. They're trying to make Sharia, you know what I mean? Like, those are the Republicans usually who do that. It's usually the Republicans who do that. The right wing, the right wingers who usually do that. So these are things that Black Americans see, and that's what some of the stuff that ADOS is, has an issue with. Muslim, you said, personally, you have no problem with ADOS seeking reparations, but why attack Black immigrants who are only 3% of Black population in America? Yeah, that's excuse me. That's again part of that same issue that they're saying, is that, which has some truth to it, which has some truth to it, that some Black immigrants who come, they want this, and again, there's some truth to that, where they have attempted to distinguish themselves in a negative way from Black Americans. So that's the issue that they have with that some come here and, again, same thing, aligning themselves with the right-wing talking points, talking down on Black Americans even though they're Black themselves, right? Talking down on Black Americans. So that's the problem that ADOS has with some Black immigrants, because they come here and then they're like, oh, I'm not Black, I'm this, I'm that. Or yeah, you black Americans are this and that. We're like, yo, what do you mean? You know what I mean? So that's some of the issues with that. That one, I never heard that one, bro. I never heard Brother Tariq Nasheed say that. I never heard of him. Never heard that one, that he blamed African and Caribbean for immigrants for spreading AIDS in America. Confederacy of dunces. No, it's not that they don't want to give reparations to African immigrants. First of all, African immigrants don't get. They wouldn't be entitled to reparations here in America. If you're an immigrant, you wouldn't get reparations if you're an African immigrant, because the reparations would be for African Americans, people who are descendants of African Americans who had been enslaved in America. So if you're an immigrant from Africa, why would you be entitled? You wouldn't be entitled, right? You wouldn't be entitled to reparations here in America. Now you might be entitled to reparations from France or Italy or the Dutch or something like that because of them invading your country you're from. But here in America, of course, and just like the same thing, like if I went to Africa, if I went to Nigeria and the Nigerians are seeking reparations from the British, I wouldn't be entitled to that in Nigeria because obviously, right? I wasn't born in Nigeria. I didn't live in Nigeria, and I'm not a descendant of the people who were the victims of the British invasion of Nigeria. So obviously, I wouldn't be entitled to that. Same thing with Caribbean immigrants. They wouldn't be entitled to American reparations. Depending on what country you're from in the Caribbean, you would have to seek reparations from the country that invaded you, right? So if you're from Jamaica, for example, no, but this deals with each. There's not a collective pot of reparations. You would have to get reparations from the country that violated your people. So if you're from Jamaica, you would get your reparations from the British, right? America wouldn't pay the Jamaican black people reparations because America didn't do what they did to Jamaica. The British did that. So you get what I'm saying? It's not like this big giant pot of reparations for whoever was a slave. No, the reparations is paid from whoever did the violation. So in America, black Americans would get reparations from America. If you're in Brazil, you would get your reparations from the Portuguese. If you're in Jamaica, you get your reparations from the British. If you're in Haiti, you get your reparations from France. If you're in Dominican Republic, same island, you get your reparations from Spain. You see? If you're in Cuba and you want reparations, you get your reparations from Spain. Most of those countries were victims of Spain. So a lot of those countries, they would get their reparations from Spain. Right? With a few exceptions. A few exceptions, it might be the British or the French, like Haiti and Jamaica, maybe some of the islands in the Bahamas and stuff like that. They would get their reparations from them. So they're also descendants of slaves as well, but they are descendants of slaves from a different slave holders, be it the British, the French, the Portuguese, like that. So that's what the issue is here. You see? So that's what it is. So ADOS is not saying that the black immigrants don't get reparations at all. We're just saying you get reparations from the country that did the violation. Right? You would get the reparations from the country that get the violation. Right, and that's the crazy thing, Akib, about Haiti, that Haiti, even though they won their independence, they wound up having to pay France back. I was like, yo, that's crazy. I would have never agreed to that. I would have never agreed to that. You know what I mean? I would have never agreed to that. Here I am. I had to fight for my freedom, and now I gotta pay you back? What? What? I gotta pay you back for winning my freedom, from defeating your oppression against me? Now I gotta pay you back? Hell no. Hell no. I would have never agreed to that. But for whatever reason, they agreed to it, and now they've been paying France. As a matter of fact, I believe they still paying France back. They still owe France. And of course, Haiti is in horrible condition because they were never able to get out from under that debt. Not only that, but of course they were ostracized by the other European colonies, which, wanted to make them suffer because they figured we can't help support, even though they should have, but they figured, well, these are black people, so we can't support their freedom, right? Even though America was about freedom and justice and throwing off the royal crown of Britain and all that, you would have thought they would have been allies to the Haitians, but instead they were like, nah, y'all are black. and y'all defeated a white oppressor, which of course they were, the colonialist America was as well. So they was like, well, we can't align ourselves with you because we're white racist colonialists ourselves. So we're not going to align ourselves, even though we preach freedom and justice and democracy and all of that. Y'all are black, so and y'all defeated a slave holding country, which America was as well. So that's the issue there. Muslim by choice, that one again, I've never seen that because I've been following Antonio Moore and the ADOS movement, and some of these statements I have not seen or heard them say themselves. So hopefully you get your information from accurate sources, bro. I've never heard him say that. In fact, most of the time when I see his videos, he's always talking about white supremacy and against white racism and stuff like that. So from what I've seen of him and know of him, I can't imagine him making such a statement. But basically, I don't want to get too much on that. Just wanted to share, my thoughts on the ADOS movement. And, of course, talk about the subject that we're talking about, the main subject of this video, which is Christian missionary bigotry, offensive mockery for Christ. Inshallah, yeah, go ahead, share it in the comment section. I'll take a look at it. I'll check it out and see. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts about the ADOS movement. I feel that ADOS has a legitimate, a legitimate position to take. I would just say, of course, just to be cautious about, painting all immigrants one way. But again, definitely there are the stuff that they brought up. Those are true things. Those are true, where we have immigrants of color from other countries that come here, and instead of trying to link up with black Americans, they want to link up. They want to try to identify and link up with the white power structure. And they do, and some of them come here with tribalism, where instead of, again, trying to unify with black Americans, they want to separate themselves and make themselves like, nah, I'm not black. I'm not black. I'm this, I'm that, or whatever. But here in America, you black. America doesn't give a damn about your country. Right? America doesn't give a damn that you're from Trinidad. America doesn't give a damn that you're Nigerian and you're from the Igbo tribe. They don't give a damn about that. America doesn't give a damn that you're a descendant of Prophet Muhammad and the Quraysh. They don't care about that. All right? America doesn't care that if you come from South Africa that you're a descendant of the Zulus. America doesn't care if you come from Zimbabwe or Rwanda that you're a descendant of the Hutu and the Tutsi people. They don't give a damn about that. When you come to America, you're black. Or you're Arab, or you're some other non-white entity. They don't give a damn about your tribal affiliation back from where you came from. Right? No, what I'm saying is that other groups come here and they separate themselves. That's the gripe ADOS has. So ADOS is not saying we're separating us. ADOS didn't say we're making ourselves separate. ADOS says the other groups kept denying black Americans and separating themselves from black Americans. And now ADOS is in a sense like a backlash. ADOS is like saying, oh, well, since you don't want to be with us, well, then fine. Go on ahead and stay over there. Now we're going to do our thing. That's what ADOS is saying. Because if you check African American history, right, going back to the 70s, the 60s, when after the civil rights movement, when blacks started coming to a consciousness, African Americans have been trying to reach back to Africa. The Afro hairstyle was the African Americans' attempt to start to identify back to the homeland with the Afro hairstyle, with the dashikis, wearing dashikis and the Ashanti cloth and clothing. That was African Americans trying to reach back, right? Trying to reach back and say, we recognize where we come from and we want to identify. We want to reach back. We want to learn our history. We want to learn our culture. We want to learn, from where we came from. And unfortunately, now, of course, this is not all Africans, definitely not. Unfortunately, though, some came to America and we begin to find out that there was this attempt to separate. Could be due to old tribal ways back from whatever country they came from. But black Americans expected that we had this idea that we would all be unified. Right? That we could all be unified. And there are some examples of unification. Like I know Ghana, for example, has an invitation for African Americans to come back to come and get citizenship in Ghana. There's another country I think that recently did it too. I know is it Uganda? I know Ghana is one. I think Uganda I think I saw Uganda too. Uganda is another example that saying that African Americans can come back home and get citizenship. I think it is, right? Yeah, they are saying that. You're right. There are some people saying that Pan-Africanism is dead. There are some people saying that. But again, this is a backlash because for so long African Americans have had this idea that we could identify with other people of color because I'm gonna even speak for myself. I even had this idea too. Growing up, I always had this idea that other people of color identified with our struggle, the black American struggle, rather than with white racism. Right? Growing up, that was the idea that I had. And then, of course, as I got older, I began to find out that I was naive in my thinking. I began to find out that I was naive. I began to find out that there are some Latinos that don't like black people. They don't like their son or their daughter dating a black person or marrying a black person. Found out that there were Asian people who don't like black people, that will act just as racist. They identify with the white power structure and they believe some of the white racist things against black Americans as well. Begin to find out that some people from the Caribbean, in a form of tribalism as well, come to America and they don't want to associate with black Americans. And there's some of these people that admit these things. That admit and say, yeah, my family told me don't ever bring a black man home. Don't ever bring a black man home to marry or to date or whatever. Or don't ever bring a black girl home. Or stay away from those people or whatever. Whether they be other black from the Caribbean or blacks from Africa, or whether they're Latinos from Cuba or the Dominican Republic or Mexico or whatever, these things are true. Matter of fact, did you remember? I don't know if you remember a few years back or a year ago or so, that George Lopez, there was a backlash. There was a little incident with George Lopez because he was doing one of his comedies. He was doing one of his comedy shows, and he told the joke, which was a true joke, of how in the Mexican community, you know, there's a rule that they have that you better not don't ever bring a black person home. And somebody in the crowd got upset or whatever. But he was telling the truth. It was a joke, but he was telling the truth. So this is what spawned the attitude that some ADOS has. And again, it's not all ADOS either. Some ADOS is like, they're able to make the distinction. They're able to recognize that there are there are some immigrants who are of color, who might be Latino or Asian or Pakistan Indian or Arab Middle Eastern or from the Caribbean or from parts of Africa that don't like black people, that don't want to associate with that don't want to associate with black Americans. But they're able to recognize that there are nuances to it, and that's not the case for all. That there are some who do recognize the plight and the struggle of black Americans. They do identify with black Americans. Right? There are some. But at the same time, we are able to recognize that there are some who don't. Like here, I'm in Atlanta, right? I'm in Atlanta. And in Atlanta, there are a lot of Somalians. Right? We've got a lot of Somalian Muslim brothers and sisters. Some identify with black Americans in the way they dress. And unfortunately, sometimes they picked up some of the negative stuff. But they like rap music. They dress in what we call hip hop style. Right? With the sneakers and the jeans and the sagging and all that, and the hat backwards and turned to the side. They dressing like black American hip hop culture. Now, of course, all black people aren't into hip hop culture either. Then there's a group of Somalians here that they don't identify as being black. They'll tell you, no, I'm not black. Like, what you mean? Right? Instead, they trying to use the tribal identity. So much so that that's the problem that I have too, is that they're not even reaching out to spread Islam in the community. Like, there's no outreach. They're moving here into Atlanta and surrounded by black people, but you're not reaching out. Right? You're not sharing Islam. You're not going out into these communities. Instead of looking at these people with disdain, reach out and do some dawah to the black people that are surrounding you. But they don't. I've even had some situations where were certain aid being given out, but it was made to be clear that the aid, don't let any other people, don't let the black people in the community know. Only keep this financial aid or this government aid to the, share it only with the Somalian brothers and sisters, because it was open for everybody. But no, only keep it. Don't tell the black American brothers and sisters. So there's some reality to that. There's some truth to that. So again, the ADOS didn't spawn out of a desire to be tribalistic themselves. It spawned out of all the other groups rejecting black Americans. So if you keep getting rejected by other people, what you gonna do? You're gonna say, okay, fine then. Fine, I'm gonna just stay right here by myself now. Now I'm not gonna reach out to you no more. Now, no, forget it. No, you don't want, all right, fine. You go on ahead and stay over there. Now we're gonna stay over here. So I want you to understand that that's where it spawned. It didn't spawn from a tribalistic idea where ADOS was like, you know what, yeah, we're our own group, we're our own group, we're our own group. No, ADOS was like, yo, we trying to reach out. Come on, let's unify Trinidad with black America. Come on, black Cubans, black Puerto Ricans, or all Puerto Ricans, or all Dominicans. Come on. Y'all know y'all got some black in your ancestry. Come on, let's work together against white supremacy and white racism. Instead, no, I know black. I know black. Huh? What you mean? You look like it. Oh no, I this, I that. So that's where it spawned from, brother Muslim by choice. That it came from that. So I want you to understand that distinction. It would be like, I guess, another example to say like this: that let's say you got a black person speaking against white racism, right? And he said, man, look, man, the police are racist. They beating us and doing that, and these guys are bad. The discrimination is bad. And then a person says, oh, look at you, man. You're an angry black man. It's like, well, wait a minute. Where did my anger come from? Right? You're an angry black man. You're being angry at the white racists for. That's what's happening like that. It's like, wait a minute, stop. What is the root of my anger? Am I an angry black man just because I don't like white people? Or am I an angry black man because of the things that white racism has done to me that makes me talk this way? See? So that's the same thing I'm saying with ADOS. It's the same kind of concept. Am I speaking as an angry black man against white racism because I'm just angry at white people for no reason at all? Or is my anger the effect and the result of experiencing white racism that makes me talk this way? See, there's a difference. There's a difference there. So so that's the thing with that. Well, yeah, Akeem, you're right. Yeah, and that's another thing too, right? Is that in a lot of these places too, they're running away from blackness even in their own countries, right? They're running from blackness even in their own countries, where, like you said, especially like in Latin America and stuff like that, in the Caribbean, the lighter you are, the better off you are, the better you're looked at. So again, these are things that ADOS has seen over the years. And that's what spawned the ADOS, the attitude that you see from some people amongst the ADOS movement. Because in a lot of those places, the darker you are, the worse you are. Right? And some of those places, they're not as blatant with their racism as far as like how apartheid South Africa was, or how Jim Crow America was, where they had signs that said, you know, no black people allowed, or white area only, black area only. Like, they didn't have it like that. What they do is they have like an unspoken type of racism where if you're black, you're just not gonna get the opportunity. You're just not gonna get it. You're just not gonna get into this neighborhood. They don't have to have a sign. It's just a unspoken law. You're just not gonna live in this neighborhood. You just not gonna be on TV. You just not gonna be able to go to college or whatever. Now, some places are finally waking up where they're starting to fight that. Like, I've seen videos where they're waking up in Brazil, and black Brazilians are starting to fight for equal rights. But that was the unspoken law. They never had signs that said you couldn't live here and all that. Like the favelas up on the hills. That's all the poor black Latinos living up in the favelas in Brazil. Right? All the poor people all the poor blacks are living up there. Same thing in Venezuela. Right? When Hugo Chavez got elected, all the poor black people, they live up in those shanty hills in the favelas. Same thing in Dominican Republic. Most of those places you go to, there's a type of bigotry or racism that still goes on, but it's unspoken. It's just basically like a given, accepted fact that if you're black, you know, that's how you living. And they worship the lighter skin. The lighter you are, the better you are. Right? They even have a saying in English, it's translated to better the race. Right? Mejor la raza. Better the race or improve the race. What did that mean? What did that mean? That meant to better the race, meaning, you know, make sure you when you marry or whatever, you date, marry white and light. Marry white and light. If you're dark, marry white and light, so that way your progeny can become lighter and whiter over time, because light skin is worship. It's seen as better. Just like when you look at the TVs in Latin America, right? Telemundo, Univision. It's funny how if you ever watch those shows, you don't see a black person at all. There's no black leading character. There's no Black Panther over there, right? There's no Black Panther superhero at all in Latin America, right? You won't see a black sitcom TV show in Latin America. You won't see a black news anchor telling you the news in Latin America. Everybody is and matter of fact, they even do that against the majority population. Most of the people in Latin America you'll see are brown, right? They're brown people. When you look on TV, you see the white Spaniard phenotype on TV in Latin America. So even then, they even, and then you would think, wow, they must look like that. And then you go to Mexico, you see all these brown people. You're like, wow, look at all these brown, mestizo, mixed native looking people. You don't see the ones that look like, like they're white looking, like the white Spaniards. You look on TV though, that's all you see. And then you go in the country and walk around, you're like, wow, look at all these brown people. But why isn't that on the billboards? Why isn't that on TV? Most of those places are like that. You watch those novellas and stuff like that, you don't see black people at all, or even the common persons of Latin America. You don't even see them on TV. It's always the white Spaniard looking ones. So, like I said, that's where the feelings of what's the name came from. Right? That's where the feelings of ADOS came from that type of attitude. You know what I'm saying? That's where that came from. So hopefully, that's a little bit of, at least that's my perspective on ADOS, right? That's my perspective on the ADOS movement and the attitudes, because I listen to I follow Tariq Nasheed and Antonio Moore. Occasionally I'll check out some videos from Yvette Carnell and just looking at the comments of the ADOS, the people who are saying they're ADOS in general, and just seeing. So yeah, I see some people may go a little bit overboard with the anti, with other immigrant things. Then I see others who are more balanced. They understand that that's not, that's not all immigrants from the Caribbean. That's not all immigrants from Latin America or whatever. It's not all people from Africa. You know what I mean? So I see a little bit, but at the same time, I recognize that, some of the gripes that they hold, there's some truth to that. There is some truth to some of those gripes where, like I said, other groups have made their ways to not identify or not seek unity with Black Americans. I have seen it. And like I said, I grew up always thinking that there was some type of, that there was some type of identity, that there was some type of identity that they identified with each other, but I was wrong. You know what I'm saying? I was wrong. Just like when I became Muslim. You know what I mean? I was, reading, not saying that Malcolm that he was wrong, but, like that's the image that I had. When I first became Muslim, that's the image that I had. That what Malcolm talked about. That, wow, man, subhanAllah, the Muslims are all together, they're unified, nobody worrying about color and all of that. And later on, the longer I became Muslim, I began to find out that, unfortunately, that, there's truth, there is some truth to that. But again, it wasn't like how I thought. I thought like there was no racial things at all. And of course, later, alhamdulillah, it happened. Obviously, I'm glad it happened later when I had already, been Muslim for a while and had already, became strong in faith in Islam. But then I began to see that, unfortunately, there is some bigotry amongst Muslims. There is racism amongst Muslims. Again, amongst Muslims, not in Islam, but amongst Muslims. That, unfortunately, the teachings of Islam has not changed. The bigotry got rid of it, got it out their heart, or the racism out of their heart. But I honestly, when I became Muslim, believed that, oh wow, this is, we're all unified, right? I had even in that sense, I had this idea that Islam, that the Muslims were all unified. So now when we see stuff going on, in Turkey and the Kurds, Syria, even back when I was younger, Iraq, I was a Muslim then, but thinking back to the Iran-Iraq war, both people saying they're Muslims, Saudi and Yemen, both saying they're Muslims. And I have this ideal that Islam is teaching us that we're supposed to be unified. We're supposed to be unified. We're supposed to be, brothers and sisters, and you're not supposed to take the kuffar as your helper, but the Saudis are, they're allies with them, and so that shattered that naivety that I had about even when it came to being Muslims. It shattered that. So now you just gotta you gotta deal with reality, and you gotta be able to face the nuances of the situation. It's not how I thought it was. You know what I mean? I always thought we were unified, that we would, then of course I started going, in experiences that I had, you go to the Eid prayer, and, I've been to Eid prayers where it was predominantly, or it was mixed, I'm African American, and, the community was predominantly African American, but then we have the Eid and we all trying to share the Eid together, and the community that we're sharing the Eid with is predominantly Pakistani Indian, and then you're going and you're looking, and people don't want to stand next to each other. I used to hate that, man. That people don't want to stand next to you. I'm like, bro, what's going on? And again, as especially as a new Muslim, you're very aware of the teachings. Prophet Muhammad said, close the ranks, shoulder to shoulder. People don't want to touch you. I'm like, yo, what's the problem? Why you don't want to have your shoulder touching mine? The sisters are lining up, and the Pakistani Indian sisters don't want to get next to the black sisters, leaving giant gaps. They were worse than the brothers, leaving giant gaps in the prayer. I'm like, what's going on? Aren't we all Muslim? Why don't they want to close the ranks? What's going on here? Why don't they want to stand next to the other black sisters? Why is this brother from Pakistan, India, why doesn't he want to stand next to me? Why he not closing the rank? Why, you know what I mean? So I began to realize that, wow, I guess I was naive in my thinking. Or I just had to face reality that, alhamdulillah, Islam has these teachings against these things. But human beings are still going to be human beings. Even if they profess to practice Islam, human beings are still going to get caught up on their human shortcomings. You know? So it goes from that to, like I said, the other things that I just mentioned about Saudi fighting Yemen, Iraq fighting Iran, Turkey fighting the Kurds, Syrians fighting each other. They're all Muslims. That's the strange, that's the weird thing, that they're all supposed to be Muslims. And yet, they're at war with each other. They're going out their way to kill and bomb each other. And it's like, subhanAllah, man. You know what I mean? Like, wow. It's a sad state of affairs, man. It's a sad state of affairs. Sad state of affairs, man. And even with that, same thing with that, brother Akib, where, especially here in America, you know, like sometimes some brothers, this used to be like a little running, not like a joke, but like something that we would kind of, you know, we would make a little thing about, where, you know, if a brother wanted to marry a sister from, you know, the Middle East, and how it's this thing going, you know, it was a known thing that, nah, you ain't gonna be able to do that. They, you know, they're not gonna let you. If you're Black American or Black whatever, just Black American, Black whoever, you know, you won't be able to marry an Arab sister from Saudi or UAE or Yemen or Iran or Egypt or whatever. Right? And again, being naive, you're like, but we're all Muslim. Right? Didn't the Prophet say marry a good Muslim? Right? As long as the brother is a good Muslim, good in his deen, good character, marry. People to caught up not on the color thing. Can't marry because you Black. Can't marry. You know what I mean? It's like, and then of course some brothers make excuses. Well, that, you know, it's because they're the tribal thing. But yeah, even that's still not a legitimate excuse. So what if it is tribal? We still Muslim though. Forget the tribal stuff, supposed to be dead. Now we only one ummah, Muslim. Is he Muslim? Good. Good character? Good. That's it. His tribe, what that got to do with anything? Is the man a good Muslim brother? But again, that was my naivety. I even saw this documentary where they went. You can find it's on YouTube. I forgot the name of it, but basically where they went and they were, showing the experiences of Black, Black Palestinians, right? Black Palestinians, Black Arabs. In matter of fact, if you go, I did a video about that about, I don't know, a few years ago, where I was talking about how the Arab racism, of course, goes against the teachings of Islam. But I took some clips from this documentary where they were showing the lives of these Black Palestinians, Black Arabs, and they were showing the unfortunate racist experiences they were experiencing from other Palestinians. And of course that was hurtful, because I'm like, isn't that interesting? You got the Israelis on top of you, treating you bad. And yet and still, in the midst of your mistreatment, you still find the way to treat Black Palestinians bad, even though your people are suffering the mistreatment of the Israelis over you, and now you're over these Black Palestinians and you're treating them bad. And that really was disheartening. That was really disheartening to see that, because they showed their experiences. You know, there was one scene where the brother, he's an old Black Palestinian brother, and again, they were, you know, he has his history is from that land. He's from that. He wasn't like somebody who migrated from Africa last year. No, he's a native Palestinian, Black Palestinian man. And he's walking, you know, as they're doing the show, and some of the other Palestinian kids, I forgot they call him Kufi, something like that, something like that, some name they were calling him, Kufi or something of this sort. And basically he said that's like the equivalent of the N-word. some word that they were calling him as the kids, the Palestinian kids, as he's walking during the show, while they were doing the show, and all the kids, they Kufi, some name with a C, Kufi, something like that. Kushi, that's what it was, Kushi, yeah, Kushi. They were calling him Kushi. All the kids are calling him Kushi. Oh, he was a man. Kushi. I guess that's connected to the Kushites. The Kushites were the original inhabitants of that land before the Arabs came. They were black. So they were calling him Kushi. And he was like, this in that language is like the equivalent of, the N-word. So I'm like, wow, man. Sad. Then there was another brother who wanted to marry I guess a light-skinned Palestinian woman, a non-black Palestinian. She wanted to marry him. He wanted to marry her. She wanted to marry him. But they were saying that the family of the sister didn't want him to marry because he's black. And it was so bad that the brother had to leave. He had to get out of there because his life was in danger. His life was in danger. There's another too, brother Muslim by choice. Matter of fact, there was another incident too of recently where I just saw people posting it where a Mexican immigrant killed this black guy or kid or whatever who was dating his Mexican daughter. He didn't want his daughter dating a black guy, so they said he killed the guy and the guy's cousin or something like that. And they stated that the reason was because he didn't want his daughter to date a black guy. So this ties back into what I was saying about the attitude of some ADOS. That it's not that ADOS is trying to be tribalistic. It's that ADOS is saying that, look, man, these other groups don't like us. Not all of them, but there's this ideology amongst a portion of these other immigrant groups that have anti-black attitudes. So it's not that ADOS is saying we're trying, we want to be tribal and separate, but that, look, we've been trying to reach out for decades, and these other groups have separated themselves from us. These other groups told us, we don't want to be with you. We're trying to get crumbs from the white man. So we don't want to identify with you Negroes. We want to get close to the white man. We want to be closer to him. We want to live in his neighborhood. We want to go to school with him. So to hell with you, black people, America, hell with you, black America. We don't want your problems, basically. We ain't trying to be with y'all. We're not trying to help y'all fight white supremacy. We want to be down with white supremacy. We want to be on a team with white supremacy. So forget what you black Americans are talking about. We don't want to be with y'all. So that's the attitude that created. Now, again, not all. There are some people who recognize this plight and recognize that white supremacy is a problem because they know from their own countries that white supremacy was a problem in Somalia, in Sudan. Y'all know y'all history. You know who came and invaded your countries. India, Pakistan. You know who invaded y'all. You know what the British did to you, right? Caribbean, Jamaica, Trinidad. Y'all know what the British did. Haiti, you know what the French did. Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Cuba. You know what the Spanish did to you. But unfortunately, some, y'all, and by the way, look, let's keep it real. Y'all are victims of white supremacy too. Y'all have been brainwashed by it too. Y'all have been infected with it as well. Because we hear that in Africa about the skin bleaching products, that those products are they like some of the biggest products, cosmetic products that sell in Africa, the bleaching. I seen in India, y'all got that product, what's it called? Fair and Lovely or some Fair and Handsome, something like that, y'all, right? And the commercials are wow. I'm surprised at the blatancy of those commercials where they show the guy, he's Indian, he can't get a date, or girls don't like him or something like that. There's a couple of them that they made. One was like, the girls don't like him. So the Indian actor comes out, hey, so-and-so, hey, Khan, don't worry about it. Look, I use Fair and Handsome, and look at me. And then the guy puts on Fair and Handsome. He's a little bit lighter. Now now the girls love him now. Oh, Khan, look at you. I'm like, wow. Man. So it's blatantly telling you that to be lighter, you look better. Then they got a female version of it where the girl can't, nobody wants to marry her. She can't get a job. Man, in fact, they made it so blatant. Like I was like, wow, India, y'all really going for this? They made it where like the girl couldn't get a job. She goes for a job interview. So basically, she has a problem. She can't get a date. She can't get married, and she can't get a job because she's too dark. So she puts on Fair and Lovely or whatever the hell it's called. Now she's light skinned. Now all of a sudden all opportunities open up. Now the guys like her. Now when she goes for the job interview, they accept her. So I'm like, wow, India, you're blatantly telling you that y'all discriminate based on color, man. You know what I mean? Like they're blatantly telling you that, hey, if you want to succeed, you got to be lighter. And that's a commercial. I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, that's crazy. So y'all are infected by it as well. Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. But that's my point, Muslim by choice. I'm saying that we already know Black Americans are infected. My point is that y'all are infected as well. So I'm not denying Black America. We already know we've been infected with it for a long time. We done been infected by it. We've been infected. We just didn't know that the other countries had that problem. We know that we've been had the hair straightening combs and all of that. That's been going on. We already know Black Americans have been jacked up. Ever since they did the doll test. You ever seen that video called the doll test? Where they get black children. This was done back in, I think, the late 60s or whatever, or early 60s, where they got the dolls and they had the with the doll test, and to show like how black kids feel about themselves. They have a white doll, the black doll, and they say, which doll is the dirty doll? The black kid picks the black doll. Which doll is the ugly one? They pick the black kid. Which was the pretty one? Oh, it's the white doll. The smart one, the white doll. So everything good and positive was the white doll. Everything ugly, negative, stupid was all for the black doll. And obviously that was telling you what they think about themselves. So we already know Black Americans, we've been infected by white racism. We just didn't know that the other places in the world have been infected by it as well. And these, now with social media, now we know that y'all brains have been infected with white supremacy just the same. Just the same. We're trying to wake up, though. We've been trying to wake up. We've been trying to fight it. And we want other people of color to fight with us. But unfortunately, when some come to America, instead of trying to stand against white bigotry, they trying to join the team. Right? They trying to join the team. It's just like, brother Muslim, when you see when you see what's the name? When you see like Mexicans who say build the wall. That's the same problem. That's the same thing. That's the same problem. You got Mexicans talking about build a wall against their own people. You got Mexicans talking about, these illegal immigrants, talking about their own people. So this extends to all groups. All these other groups of people of color have been infected with white supremacy just the same. So much so that, yes, you have other Mexicans talking about build a wall, talking about pro-Trump, talking about, these illegal immigrants. Talking about, Trump was right when he said Mexicans are criminals, rapists. You got other Mexicans saying, yes, that's true. You know what I mean? So we all infected. But that's the thing, is that we, as people of color, need to wake up and realize that, look, instead of separating ourselves as being separate, targets of white supremacy, that if we could come together, we could be one united front against it, because we all different people of color could stand strong, united against white bigotry and white racism. Instead, unfortunately, too many other people of color are trying to be down with the team. They're trying to be on the white supremacy side, and that's the problem. That's why they remain dominant, right? That's why they remain dominant over all the groups of people of color, because they got all the groups of color hating one another, disunified, and then they trying to be on white supremacy's team, right? They trying to be on white supremacy's team. If we realize that, hey, we could unify together and we could end white racism, white supremacy, but instead, too many people's minds are infected by it, and that's why we have that problem. That's why we have that problem. So, but enough on that. I'll just get back to the subject. I mean, I'm pretty much finished with the show, but just so we can end it off on the subject that we was intended, which is Christian missionary bigotry, offensive mockery for Christ, which is, again, this is also part of that white supremacy problem. This is part of that white supremacy problem, that clearly David and Vocab and their token Negro friend didn't see anything wrong with putting on Arab face and mocking Middle Eastern people, mocking the Muslims. How they thought this was beneficial, I don't know how. But clearly they obviously thought it was. Clearly they thought it was beneficial somehow. As far as I saw it, the only people who seemed to benefit from it, as Brother Muslim by choice said, was the white racists. They're the ones who lauded this Islamicize Me series. They're the ones who lauded the comment section, and you see them praising it, and it's great and it's wonderful, and the Muslims deserve it and all that stuff like that. You know, but hey, it didn't. I don't. You know, the success that they had, I'm sure, was zero in Muslims leaving Islam. I don't think this convinced any Muslims to leave Islam. If it did convince them, then more than likely they probably became an atheist, right? Because I have seen that too, where some people are not from their series, but just people who I see claiming to be ex-Muslims. A lot of them they just became atheists. They didn't go to Christianity. They just left religion altogether. They just got fed up with religion altogether. But for David and these guys, they're supposed to be Christians. They're supposed to be trying to get people to leave Islam to come to Christianity, not to become an atheist. But that's what this would do, I would assume, because clearly, like I said, if you're smart, you wouldn't want to join 2 or 3 dumb racists to, if you leave Islam. So more than likely, you would probably just leave Islam and become an atheist, because surely you don't want to be friends with David and Vocab and the other dude, right? Seeing that they're making mockery of your people, right? Even if you don't look at this from an Islamic perspective, the fact that they're making mockery of your culture as a Middle Eastern person, the fact that they're putting on the fake beard and putting on the kafaya and dressing like in Middle Eastern, traditional Middle Eastern garb and talking, they even do the accents, people. They even, if you watch the series, which I don't recommend, but if you watch it, you'll see that in the series, they even making like they're doing the Arabic accent. Right? They're making a fake mocking Arabic accent. So surely if you're a smart person and you decide that you wanted to leave Islam, surely you wouldn't want to become friends with these guys after they got finished mocking your culture if you're from the Middle East, right? You wouldn't want to become friends with David or Vocab and become buddy, pally with them after they got finished making a mockery of your culture and your people, right? So you see many of these people, they just become atheists. They become atheists. So I'm going to leave it at that. Appreciate you guys joining in. Don't forget that we have ways and means that you can support our platform. Joining our Patreon page. You can donate through the link to my website. A number of ways you can help us out and support us so that we can continue to grow our platform and grow the work that we do and get out there. Because as they say, for every action, there needs to be, in order to stop that force, you need an equal or greater force to stop it, right? And as we've known, the Islamophobia industry is very well funded. They're very well funded. And people like myself, Muslim by choice, we've been on YouTube for quite a long time, making videos and things like that. But these people here, they're outpacing the Muslim responses because they're definitely well funded. And in order to counter that or match it, we need to be, all of us who are involved in this work, we need, you need equal or greater force. In this case, we're talking about, support and sponsorship. So just keep that in mind. So utilize those links in the description of this video, and we appreciate your help and whatever help you can give. I mean, with that, we'll go ahead and end it. Yeah, exactly, Akid. Let me see any more comments. Let me read some more comments before we go. Let's see here. All right, false sex like Shia or Geo mate. All right, take care, brother. Sooner over everything, man. Made just good. Yes, that's true, brother. False sex. That yeah, that they pay. You know what I'm saying? But that's the age that we live in. You know what I mean? That it takes funding. But you know what? I think Islam has always understood that because, as you know, one of the uh, permissible means to distribute zakat is to give it to people who do dawah. So clearly, even back at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, it was understood that people who do dawah and things that they need funding, they need to be sponsored, and they need resources to help them. So even back then, as you know, the zakat can be distributed to a person or persons who are engaged in doing dawah. So it was clearly understood from the Prophet's time that you know people who do dawah they needs to be funded, they need to be sponsored to do the work. So you know, Marwan, wa alaikum salam, wa alaikum salam. So and in this age that we live in, yes, in order to, we can get the message out, and we've been doing it. Myself, like I said, myself, Muslim by choice, and others, we've been on YouTube before YouTube even started to have ways that you could sponsor people. And we've been putting it out as best we can. But in order to expand that message, it does take sponsorship because you got to advertise, you can pay for paid ads and stuff like that, which helps your message get out to a broader audience. So that's definitely a necessary thing to do. You know what I'm saying? So, but alhamdulillah, we do what we can in the capacity that we have. So alhamdulillah, may Allah reward our efforts. So with that, we'll end it on that. We will end it on that. Appreciate you all tuning in. Appreciate the discussion. And just remember, like I said, and again, I'm still interested in if anybody has any information about any particular, like, was there a backlash against them for mocking and being, making these bigoted and mocketed and racist mockery of Arabs. I would like to have that information if anybody has it. Inshallah, you could just put it in the comment section, like if you have a link to an article or something, or if there's screenshots of a bunch of people condemning them, just share that in the comment section, inshallah. All right. Make sure to look at it. Yeah, brother, I will definitely. I will take a look at it, and we'll go from there. All right. Yeah, Muslim by choice. How you said you've been on YouTube since when? Since about what, 2006? I think we might have been on YouTube about around the same amount of time. I think I might have came in around that same time, 2006, 2005, somewhere around there. So we probably been on YouTube about the same amount of time. So, but yeah, bro, I'll check it out. Appreciate it. Appreciate you for sharing the links. Appreciate the discussion. All right, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, you know what? Wait, I'm sorry. I forgot one thing. Before I go, wait. Before I go. Hold on. There's something I wanted to share. Just a quick article about the history of blackface. All right, and brown face and all that. So let me share. Just wanted to share that real quick. Yeah, I forgot. So yeah, here we go. Here, brown face, blackface. They're all offensive, and here's why. This is an article from CNN. I think that's a picture of Jason Trudeau dressing up in blackface back.
When I called for his impeachment 2 years ago, Washington insiders and every candidate for...
All right, so here's what they're saying. It doesn't matter what skin tone you're trying to portray. Blackface, brown face, yellow face, red face. Any colored face you wear that isn't yours is racist. Some of the recent controversies have included public figures such as Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam. Trudeau apologized after a photo emerged of him wearing brownface during a 2001 school event. A photo of a person in blackface was found on Northam's personal page in his medical school yearbook. Here's why these incidents and others like them are so offensive. And the things that they show are apply to vocab and and David and whoever their friend is. They have a long, painful history. Again, how they didn't see, but then again, that's what that white bigotry does. It allows you to be oblivious to your own evil doing and wrong. So they didn't see anything wrong with dressing up as Arabs and mocking. They didn't see nothing wrong with that. Such is the nature of white bigotry. It says the first minstrel shows depicted black people as lazy, ignorant, cowardly, or hypersexual. Negative representations of non-white people date back to the mid-19th century. White actors performing in minstrel shows would darken their skin with polish and cork to look stereotypically black, just like what David and Vocab and the other dude did. They dressed in brown-faced and Arab face to look stereotypically Arab, stereotypically Middle Eastern, and make a mockery of those people. The shows were intended to be funny to white audience. That's exactly what David and these dummies were doing. Because like the brother Muslim by choice said, most of the people in their audience who supported them and watched their stuff and quote them and reference them are a bunch of white bigots. So that's exactly who they were appealing to. They definitely weren't trying to be funny to Muslims, were they, right? They weren't trying to be funny for us. They weren't trying to be funny for people from the Middle East. They were trying to be funny to white audiences. That's who watches that garbage. That's who quotes them. That's who references them. A bunch of white Christian idiot bigots. So that's who they were catering to with their token Negro friend. Their token coon Negro friend. That's who they were appealing to. They sure as hell were not appealing to Muslims or people from the Middle East. They were trying to be funny to a white audience. That's the nature of blackface and brownface. And that's why what you see in the picture of Vocab and them is so offensive. Because they followed the same trope of making fun of people of color to their white audiences, their white Christian bigoted audience. As I say, surely they didn't think that doing that was going to somehow appeal to a Muslim and make a Muslim want to leave Islam and come to fake white Jesus. It says, but they were hurtful and demeaning to African Americans, right? The shows were intended to be funny to white audiences, but they were hurtful and demeaning to African Americans. Because they reinforced white people's notion of superiority. Exactly. So when you see Vocab in the picture looking like a stereotypical Middle Eastern man holding a switch to a bomb, that's offensive. That's bigotry. That's promoting the idea that Arabs are a bunch of crazy bombers and killers. That's reinforcing white bigots' attitudes towards people from the Middle East and Muslims. By distorting the features and culture of African Americans, in Vocab's and David and other guys' case, distorting the features and culture of Arabs and Muslims, including their looks, their language. This is everything this article is talking about is the same thing David and these other dummies did. They, as I told you, they mocked the looks, they mocked the language, the dress. They did all of that. They did all of that, including their looks, language, dance, deportment, and character. These are all the components. I want you guys to pay attention. Everything this article just said are components that David, Vocab, and the other dude did in these videos mocking Muslims. So they got all the signature characteristics of white bigots making fun of people of color. The look, the language. I don't know if they did any dancing. They might have even done that. But the deportment and the character. They did all of those. They have all those characteristics in their making mockery for Christ. Making mockery of other people for Christ. So it says white Americans were able to codify whiteness across class and geopolitical lines as its antithesis says the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. The characters were so widespread that even some black performers wore blackface, historians say, as it was the only way they could work. White audiences didn't want to watch black actors do anything but look foolish on stage. They perpetuate dehumanizing stereotypes. Exactly. That when you see that picture of Vocab, look at Vocab. He's perpetuating a stereotype, a dehumanizing stereotype of Middle Eastern people, of Muslims. See him? See the picture? See him? He's looking stupid in his face. Holding a switch, like a bomb switch or something. They're perpetuating bigotry. I don't know how Christians other than James White let them live this down. Let them get away with this. But we can say, well, then we understand that a lot of you are a bunch of bigots. So that's why you laughed along with them. You enjoyed David and these dummies doing this. You enjoyed it because you're bigots too. You enjoyed it. You laughed along with them. You weren't disgusted. You weren't angered. You didn't say it was offensive. You felt that the Muslims deserved it, didn't you? You felt that the Muslims deserved it, didn't you? You laughed along. You said, yeah, they deserve to be mocked like that. Just like your grandfathers and grandmothers felt that black people deserved to be mocked in blackface. You're no better. You're no different. But as you can see, look at him. Look at him holding the bomb. Clearly promoting that the Arab Muslim is a crazy guy bomber who wants to bomb you. Again, if he did that to black people, Vocab would be out of here. David would be out of here. If they had done this video making fun of black people, the video would get taken down. They might even be blocked and banned from Facebook, banned from Twitter, banned from YouTube. But yeah, go on ahead and have a laugh at the Muslims. Go on ahead and make a mockery of Middle Eastern people, Arabs. Go on ahead. And yet you guys always want to talk that garbage about the love of Christ. Yeah, where? I don't see it. I don't see it from you guys. So they say they perpetuate dehumanizing stereotypes. See the video here? I guess she's a white woman acting like she's Asian, Japanese or something. Portraying yourself as someone of a different race is not just a representation of a person, but rather using someone's skin tone as a costume. Hollywood, for example, has faced backlash for characters' representations of different racial and cultural backgrounds. A How I Met Your Mother episode from January 2014 recast three of his actors, all white, to be Asian. They were in yellowface and wore stereotypical Asian attire. Some viewers were outraged and called the show out on Twitter with the hashtag #HowIMetYourRacism. One of the co-creators, Carter Bays, acknowledged that some people didn't find the episode funny and apologized on the show's behalf. Has David and Vocab and the other dude, have they apologized for making mockery? No. From what I understand, when James White called them out, they went hard at James White. From what I understand, when James White called them out, instead of saying, well, all right, yeah, we're sorry, it was racist. No, they instead went against James White. They started attacking him. Instead of taking his advice, they doubled down on their white bigotry. They doubled down on it. They started attacking him.